I'm Tom. Tonight I've got Matthew Hills with me,
Hey
and
guys.
we're going to talk reptile shows and share our experiences about seeing turtles and tortoises at a reptile show, buying them, etc., etc. So,
Yeah.
how you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Pretty good. I was sick today, off from work.
Yeah.
We've got a flu bug passing through, but I'll throw out a lot of questions to you, and I'll listen.
Everybody or just you?
Well, I'm the third person of five to get it. So
That's always fun.
mom hasn't gotten it, and my 14-year-old hasn't gotten it, and it's his birthday tomorrow. So
Oh, nice. My daughter just had a birthday. So
how
I'm
old?
gonna try to turn my tablet down. Oh, I'm not hearing it. So yeah.
Podrick is here. Dragon
All right.
Lair.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, we actually just had a reptile show in Indy. I wasn't able to make it
yeah,
over there, but yeah, we just had one. There, lately, I would say over the past 3 or 4 years, there's been next to no turtles. I mean, it's been all ball pythons, um, some geckos, tons of geckos, but just not a lot of turtles. I think the last one I went to, the biggest one that we have in the state, I think I counted 13 total,
wow.
and they were all redfoot, Russian, or uh, sulcata.
hmm
So
So what is the show schedule like there where you are in Indiana, Indianapolis?
So we usually have one in the spring, one in the summer, and then one in the fall. Um, there's some smaller ones that hit a couple different locations here and there, but it's not nearly. It's nothing like a Tinley or what I imagine a Tampa would be. Um, I'd love to. I'd love to see Tampa this next year if that's a possibility. I'm going to go.
Daytona?
Daytona, not Tampa.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I think Daytona is the show for
Yeah,
turtles and tortoises, right? I mean, they
yeah.
have
I
whole
mean,
turtle
Wayne set it
island.
up that way. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I've never met Wayne, but Wayne Hill is the organizer of that show. He's one of like the largest turtle breeders in the country.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he must wholesale a lot of animals. I'm not exactly sure how he.
I I never see him or Joel post a ton of things like in the classifieds. I see pictures on Facebook and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
I don't see Wayne or Joel on like Fauna or King Snake or Morph
yeah,
Market. So yeah, I think he probably does wholesale a lot.
yeah. Anthony's with us. Hamburg, uh, that's in Pennsylvania. I've heard about that show. It's definitely something that I would like to get out to
Yeah.
sometime and maybe meet up with Anthony um, there. There's a Tinley Park show coming up in March,
Yep.
and I've never been to Tinley Park. I went to Chicago last November actually for work, and we cruised over there. It was pretty effortless. Now I didn't drive; I was a passenger, but um, I'm really tempted to go here in a couple weeks.
Do it. I'll meet you up there.
Well, I will let you know.
It's
Uh,
not a bad. Actually, do you take? No, you'll go north. You won't come down
80,
to 70.
80. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Mark's here. Oh, interesting. Tinley
Yeah.
enforces the 4-inch law. So, in Ohio, we have uh, we have three big shows. Ohio has a lot of people. So we have a big show in Cleveland and Columbus. Those shows are run by the Hamper family. And they have for decades had baby turtles for sale.
Okay.
So it's kind of if you go to Columbus or you go to the Cleveland show, they'll have 20 species of baby turtles to buy,
Yeah.
and they sell a lot of those things.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But I don't know where they come from. I've asked them, they're like, "Oh, they come from Florida."
Yeah, it's odd that, I mean, so I actually just found out this week that there's somebody in Indiana that keeps a Galapagos and radiated. I thought I was the only one with a radiated on the private side that I knew of.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just found out somebody here has both of those, which surprised me greatly. I mean, they're a sleeper. They're a very private person, which I understand. So, but it's cool to know that they're here, and I wonder how many other species are like that where people just don't know about them.
Yeah. There are there's nobody that breeds radiateds in Ohio, and
Uh,
the Akron Zoo has Galaps. Um, but I don't know. Maybe the Columbus Zoo has smallers. Oh yeah. So yes, Anthony. So Shay Hamper runs the All Ohio Reptile Show. His father started it, and according to Brian Barczyk, the All Ohio Show was one of the first reptile shows in the country. So yeah,
that's cool.
still run it. Unfortunately, Don Hamper passed away a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Um, but we have
Still
monthly.
going. Monthly shows.
monthly
Yeah, I heard that on your episode. That blew my mind.
Yeah, so I can go to the Cleveland Reptile Show once a month, and now there's a Northeast Ohio Reptile Show in the Youngstown area
Really?
every other month. So that's like 45 minutes to the east of me. There's now a show, I think, every other month in Toledo, and there's another show in a place called Fremont, which I've been told is just as big as the Cleveland show. So
Really?
what we've seen in Ohio is just like a ton of shows. Um,
Do you get a lot of
yeah.
people coming down from Michigan and over from, or is it pretty much just Ohio folks?
So you know, I really don't know. We have a lot of people in Ohio. Um, Fred Kick, he has a lot of imported animals. He comes down from New York. Um, but I think that these two big shows you can't get in.
Oh, really? To vend?
Yeah, so if you want to be a vendor,
You can't get in.
you can't get in. So that has
Okay.
these other shows, I think, to start.
Hey, that's not a bad thing. If they're that full,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's more options for us.
yeah. So let's talk about the turtles we see at a reptile show. Um, it's interesting because you may or may not see babies. That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. And in that video I made, I basically said just by looking at the animals, if you see a baby turtle or tortoise, it's pretty safe to say that it was captive bred.
Right.
I mean, there may be
Right.
some exceptions to that, but um, and what's interesting is that the 4-inch rule, you can't sell a turtle or tortoise above 4 inches as a pet or below 4 inches as a pet, but that also applies to the size of animals that are imported into this country.
Right.
So you can nothing under 4 inches can be imported. So all of these red-footed tortoises that we see that are like 4 or 5 inches, most of those are imported
Yeah.
from South America. On
Oh, yeah.
so I, or yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. It's like we have plenty of redfoot tortoises, don't we?
Yeah. We have plenty of Russian tortoises. We have plenty of most
Yeah,
things out there. I mean, there's very little, in my opinion, justification for continued importation of any species.
yeah,
There are certain species I think that the bloodlines aren't strong enough to necessarily cut it off completely and for it to continue. But then you got to weigh the options. And there's a conversation today that I think you saw on the PTPG discussion page about conservation, preservation, and how we word things. And I think there's a lot of importance to it, but I understand as well. Um, in the grand scheme, for a lot of people, it doesn't matter. That they don't really care what it means. They don't really care what I consider it to mean or what you consider it to mean. It's just a non. non-subject to them. And I get that. And it's nothing against people like that whatsoever. But I think if there's organizations out there that want to, promote conservation, preservation, and there being a different, then I think it is important to kind of describe what those are and how they do differ. And a lot of that absolutely applies to reptile shows. The vast majority of everything we see there are wild caught imports. What
If
most people, oh yeah,
yeah,
what most people I don't think realize. Oh, don't do that, man. I'll send you one.
what? Oh,
Uh,
Podrick.
they're saying they almost bought a Russian tortoise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. The
yeah, they're fantastic turtles. I mean, tortoises.
yeah.
Are my absolute favorite. But that goes right into it. I don't think most people realize what they cost when they're imported. I don't know. I don't think they realize the wholesale price that like strictly reptiles is charging and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, Couple that with everything they go through before they even get to that reptile
Yeah.
show in Cleveland, Ohio, or Cincinnati or Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
I that's part on us. We have to educate people. We have to tell the newcomers, and that's what I loved about your video. Um, you know, we have to tell them, look, this is a wild caught. This is what you want to stay away from. Um, it's
Yeah. I don't think people have any idea that if they buy a redfoot tortoise that is 8 inches with a perfectly smooth shell, that it was likely caught in a jungle or rainforest in South America.
oh yeah,
I mean, they have no idea. And
or
yeah,
or a. I loved it when you said this, but I get this all the time. Hi, this is Shelly. Shelly's a 3-month-old tortoise or a 1-year-old tortoise. We got him at the pet store. He's
yeah,
really lovely,
yeah,
but he's not eating for us, so we have to surrender him to you now. Um,
yeah.
you know, they will. I mean, most people will just believe whatever they're told by whoever's selling them it, and I think part of it's they want to.
It- who else? If you're not an expert on turtles and tortoises, who not to give you better advice than the pet store you're buying the animal from, right?
Right, right,
I
yeah,
mean, it's if I buy something that I don't really know much about, that I'm not an expert in, yeah, I'm going to uh, find somebody that I think I can trust.
right.
And as we know, um, I mean, I used to sell computers. you, you, you spin everything. You spin
Oh
everything
yeah,
to the positive.
this is better than that. That's better than this, and
Yeah, yeah,
they
or
do that on purpose. No, he's tired right now. That's why he's closing his eyes.
yes,
They had a long drive.
yeah. Um, so for me to make that video, even those captive bred animals, those are clearly they were not captive bred by that seller. There was a redfoot; its eyes were closed, sunken in.
Yeah,
It was not a healthy animal. So the whole point of that video was, hey, you're gonna see a lot of nice looking snakes and lizards, but for whatever reason, turtles are a whole other story at reptile show. It's
yeah.
very, very rare to find any really good turtles or tortoises at a reptile
Yeah.
show.
Well, and it's so don't and
Like
one thing I
at the big ones, yes, but what I'm talking about is your
yeah,
local regional
small
rep.
town, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah,
it's amazing because even a lot of the people there don't know what they're talking about. He won't mind me sharing. He's a great guy. Um, Young guy I met at a pet or a reptile expo several years back. But when I looked in a little 5-gallon glass tank, there were some Herman's tortoises just baking under 100-watt light. I mean, they were gasping. So I ran up to him like, "You need to pull those right now." So he got him out and he started soaking them. He obviously didn't know what he was doing. He was just helping out a guy that was running a booth or running a vendor that was running a table. And since then, he's turned into one of the best turtle and tortoise keepers I know. He's always been a reptile person, but now he really dives in towards turtle and tortoises, and he's doing a really fantastic job with everything. I mean, there's nothing I keep that I wouldn't trust him keeping. If I needed to leave for a month and have him watch them, I would trust them. So there are good people. They're just whether they have a willingness to learn or correct themselves. A lot of people will get really, don't tell me how to do anything with my turtles. I don't care if it's an Ambenensis sitting with a red foot.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to think through. Turtles are really popular pets, right?
Yeah.
Really, really popular pets. The pets tend to be the real cheap one. So there's really no money in breeding cheap turtles. The red-eared slider morphs.
Yeah.
That was kind of I think an attempt to replicate the snake model,
Yeah.
but
But look at their values now.
it crashed. So why can the market support hundreds, if not thousands, of ball pythons at a reptile show, but very few turtle and tortoise breeders? Why is that? What?
The amount of time it takes to breed a ball python and get it established and prove out that morph, prove out that het gene, it's so much faster than, I mean, you have to be a very patient person to do what we do. I mean, how many other people are spending thousands of dollars to get a group of something that they'll be able to breed and maybe sell some hatchlings 10, 15 years down the road?
Yeah.
Nobody's making that investment.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not the smartest people in the world when it comes to money.
Yeah. Yeah. Podrick says he tried to buy a creep for a Greek tortoises, so that was way too much money. Quick road to maturity and co-dominant morphs make it different for
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Anthony's working with a very interesting turtle with a I don't want to call it a morph, but I think the
Anamensis.
one of the is it hemos? I don't know. What does Anthony have that has?
Well, he hatched out a Anamensis last year that came out as a hypo. He wasn't really sure, but it's nothing like anything else he'd ever seen. So I'm not sure what else. I mean, he's got some more red-ear sliders.
Yeah, no.
I'm sending him another one here soon. If he's lucky, I may send him a normal red-ear slider with it.
Yeah, and Mark just jumped in and said, it really is the 4-inch rule, right? So if you have to raise up a turtle to 4 inches, that costs a lot of money, right? Yeah, there we go. It's a
clown pastel.
Vietnam pond turtle or turtle that Anthony has. So yeah, when you have to, if you can't sell a baby like a ball python, then that becomes problematic because that's just more money that you have to put into it, right? And as we know, this is driven by the market, and if people can't make money breeding the animals, it's going down to people like us who just do it as passion projects.
Right. I mean, I breed Rhinoclemmys mani, ornate wood turtles.
Oh yeah.
Even captive bred sell for $50. Like there's no value in it, I mean,
yeah.
But I love them and they're productive, so I won't, get rid of them.
As soon as those are not imported anymore, those skyrocket in price.
Right. Which I'm not doing it for that purpose.
Yeah.
But if they do become illegal to import, at least there'll be groups here. I mean, because there's other people that breed them as well, but that's why I don't want to separate that group. I mean, keeping them in Indiana is not the smartest idea in the world. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Yeah. But they came here. They were all rescues. So they all came here, and I kind of put them together after quarantine to let them stay until I could find homes, and they started producing. So now do I separate them out and send them off to new homes and lose that, or do I suck it up and pay to feed them all winter long?
Yeah. I mean, those are cool turtles. I would love to work with them someday, but I want to work with every turtle someday. So
Yeah.
can't have them all. But so Krista was talking about how there's very few reptile shows in where she lives in Canada, and tortoises are uncommon there. The supply is just not what it is here. I'm guessing
Right.
they cannot be imported to Canada anymore. Um, we I'm gonna pull some numbers. You've obviously looked at the Russian tortoise import numbers. How give give people a a frame of reference on how many Russian tortoises have been imported to the U.S. over the year.
Okay, so the first one came in 1977. The group in 90. Since then, they've gone up tremendously, to the point where they were averaging about 100,000 a year. Now it's hard to really get a good number on it. The problem with Russians, and this is probably true with a lot of different species, but Russians particularly, they live in a lot of the stands, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan,
Yeah, yes,
um, and they're not EU countries, they're not NATO countries. There's no real oversight on any of their import or export. So real numbers, I mean, over 100,000, I would say.
yeah. We can know how many come in because to the U.S. That's tracked.
Yeah,
How many go out? Yeah, who knows if they're accurately reporting those numbers.
because the guy in Kyrgyzstan, they're allowed to export 75,000 a year, but
Yeah,
if they can't fill that because they don't find enough, which is happening in
yeah.
several of their locations, the guy from Uzbekistan just smuggles them over to Uzbekistan and exports them out of Uzbekistan. No one knows. I mean, some people do because we can look at the subspecies and say, well, okay, there's no Kazakhstanica getting exported from, Afghanistan. So we know that one was smuggled into Afghanistan to come, but who's doing that? There's like 4 people in the U.S. that can tell, the different subspecies or even care that they're subspecies. So,
Someday we have to capture the information that you gave at TTPG on a
I'm trying. So what's funny about that is the issue so to get it from my MacBook to Michael's computer to do the presentation, we had to
yeah.
save it on a SD drive, and it didn't transfer everything. Like halfway through my presentation, I realized I don't have my slides. I'm like, crap. Oh well. But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do now is compile that. I own a website. I just don't have anything on it. HoosierTurtleandTortoise.org. So I'm trying to get it compiled so I can put it on that with some more care sheet stuff for people that I adopt turtles and tortoises out to.
Cool. Podrick says he did not know there were different subspecies of Russian. So
yeah, 5 of them. There were 6.
yeah, there was I think a translated article in the Badager, the TTPG newsletter, about 3 to 4 years ago that really got me onto it. And then Matthew gave a talk at this last TTPG about the different subspecies.
The best tortoise in the world. I mean, I have Radiata, I've got Homiana, I've got some other cool ones, and if I could only keep one, it would be Russian.
So if someone does find a Russian tortoise at a reptile show and buys that animal, what are they getting, and what are they going to have to do to be successful?
So the vast majority of Russians that come in, I mean, if you're familiar with the import of any turtle or tortoise, they're bagged up by these guys that find them. They're thrown into big containers to shipped off to, a weight station where they collect more different weight stations before they finally get to the distributor and their exporter ships them out. And then they go to the United States and they get divided up into whoever's going to buy them wholesale, and then the wholesaler takes them and ships them out. So you're looking at a very stressed animal off the bat. What I've learned from Russian tortoises over the years is I don't know about the best tortoise to compensate for their sickness and illness, but they do a very good job of it. You'll see a tortoise and it'll be perfectly fine. You'll wake up the next day and it'll be dead. It doesn't happen with captive bred. I mean, they're bulletproof. I mean, they're just as hardy as can be. But wild caught, I mean, I do fecal examinations, I do blood work on them, and that's with the ones that I think are healthy. The ones that are unhealthy usually, are either staying in quarantine in a completely different section of the house or they're at the vet. Um, it's they're not the hardest thing in the world to establish. They are difficult to breed, but a lot of times you're going to get a stressed animal that may or may not eat, may or may not be uh, suffering from, worms and everything else. I mean, I used to do a prophylactic deworming with everything that came in, and I stopped doing that just um, unnecessary. I mean, everyone's got it. Well, that and I got really tired of doing fecal transfers for good biologics. Or can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Pretty garbled.
Hold on.
That now it's good. So Krista says, she has one Herman's tortoise. She really loves it. It's definitely sad when we hear about tortoises being taken from the wild, and nobody likes this, right? I mean, no, we don't. It's not a thing that we want to happen. I'm surrounded by tortoises that lived in West Africa, right? So for me, giving those animals the best possible life they can have, knowing they can never go back there.
Yeah. Yep.
So
But they can live a long time, even wild caught ones. I have one Zippy. He's a male that I got from Seattle, Washington. A couple had him. They were in their late 70s. They had gotten them 46 years earlier as a full-grown adult. They were traveling somewhere in Europe when they got them. But I mean, import and export was a lot different back then. They didn't get away with it. But
yeah,
I've had him now. He was a full-grown adult when they got him. They were 46 years. I've had him for 7 now. So I mean, he's an old guy, still kicking, doing just fine.
That's cool.
I mean, they can be very healthy.
Yeah.
It's just hit or miss.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely one of the tortoises you will see at a reptile show. Almost anyone has. Yeah, we have a lot of people that just buy on the wholesale market, come to the show, and are just reselling animals. What are some questions to ask a turtle or tortoise seller at a reptile show? How do you do it politely but find the information you need?
So if you want to know if they're the breeder or not, ask them what temperature they incubated the eggs for. That's a pretty quick one where you can be like, okay, they don't know what they're talking about then. So yeah, I like to do that. Ask them, what temperature. Did they temp sex the eggs? Ask them that if they know species that aren't temp sex. If it's a North American wood turtle, did you temp sex this? Oh yeah, males. Really?
They don't have TSD, huh?
Yeah, no. So they're chromosome based. Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that's fun to do. Ask them how often it's been soaked, how long it's been in their care. If it is an obvious wild caught, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if they're going to claim it's like a long-term captive, if it's LTC on there, really ask them what they consider long-term captive. Because some people, it's like 6 months long-term captive. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, that's halfway through quarantine. So yeah, definitely ask them how long. If they've been exposed to any other tortoise or turtles, if they've been housed, cohabited with anything. Yeah, I mean, how is eating? I think you had brought up some people that had some turtles and tortoise there and they were eating. That's always a good sign. If I see turtles and tortoise there eating, that's a good thing. Sometimes you can ask if they have any lettuce. Can I see it eat? I'm not above asking to see it eat. You know, if I don't know this person, I don't generally get many animals from reptile shows. A big part of that is Indiana doesn't have any good vendors there for turtles or tortoises. You know, the 4-inch laws does apply here as well, and they're not, I think, as big with enforcement of the 4-inch law. To them, Indiana DNR, they're mainly looking at native animals and making sure no one's selling anything they're not supposed to. So box turtles, we're not allowed to sell any species of box turtle here. So that's what they're looking for. They don't really care about the 4-inch laws. You have a little display that says it's for education, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's some really great advice. We're having this conversation for someone new to the turtle world that goes to a reptile show, might have snakes, wants to get a turtle, but we just want to let you know this is a whole different world than captive bred snakes.
Oh, yeah. Well, so here's one other thing I thought about bringing up. We talk all the time about how to tell wild caught versus captive bred. The issue that you're going to start having is with turtles that are being kept really well. There's a lot of people out there that are doing really well now, so you're getting an almost captive bred or an almost wild caught looking turtle or tortoise, and it's not. I mean, it's a captive bred. So with that, there's anything like this that I would ever, I don't sell, but if I was, you know, I have pictures of this guy when he was a hatchling, and he still has some, you know, still has some markers on it, you know, and it still has physical characteristics that I can point out. So a good breeder, I don't think would be upset with pointing that out. But in the same token, even some species with good care, you're gonna see some pyramiding that you don't see on wild caught. If this was a wild caught tortoise, we wouldn't even see that. You know, it does happen, yes, but that's the exception, not the rule. Yeah. I mean, I always hear people throw that through. I've seen it in the wild, so have I. But you know, 1 out of 1,000 doesn't really make a difference. You know, whereas, you know, I would say that's a pretty good redfoot. It's, I mean, not as good as say the Southern Florida guy.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a very healthy, bright-eyed tortoise. It's got good solid weight. I think that's a really big thing. You pick up a tortoise, and if it doesn't feel heavier than it, you know, looks, you know, I'd be a little concerned. I mean, I think, and a lot of people are really hung up on finding the exact weight. How many grams is it? How many grams is this? Eyeball it, you know, feel it. You can tell if it's got dense weight to it.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't bring a scale when I go and buy things. I use my hand. And it does a good enough job then to tell me if it's a, you know, decent healthy weight. So I do now. I know you had mentioned having a scale.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
At home.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah. I've got another video. I have so many people ask me if they're tortoise, like, how do I know if it's healthy or not? I'm like, you have to weigh it, and if it's not gaining weight, your tortoise there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, Matthew. Well, this is a really good conversation. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
We'll say goodbye. Thanks everyone for your comments, watching the videos. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for doing the videos. I mean, that's so important.
Thank you. You know, the direction I'm taking this channel is kind of moving away from the hingeback only content and really just talking about better turtle and tortoise care. And we'll see where that takes us.
Awesome. I love it.
Okay. Thank you much.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.